Well, good morning, everybody. Welcome to the Sunday Brunch Stream. I'm your host and special guest, Ramblin Deano. I'm the producer, the director, everything. Man, it's a cold, cold day here in West Allis, Wisconsin. We got a week's worth of this cold weather. Polar vortex has returned. But it's sunny, which is nice to look at out the window from inside a warm house. Um, hey, Dave. Hey, Tony. Hey, Martin. Good to see you folks here. Cheers, everybody. So, it's the day of the big game, which I can't say the name of for fear of being sued by the NFL. Uh, trust me, they'd come after me. I know it. So, who's everybody rooting for? I'm of the ilk of most of America, I think, in that I would just rather see Tom Brady lose. Um, and I've built up many reasons for this over the years. Beyond the fact that I'm just sick of seeing him win stuff. It doesn't help that he's been pally with Trump, and so that's a good thing. But recently found out that his sort of bullshit nutrition company took PPP money, and I think a guy that's worth $300 million could probably keep his company going and preserve those funds for businesses that need it a little more desperately than his. Martin's asking Liverpool, Man City, or Ireland versus Wales. I realize that some of my overseas viewers may not view this as the big game at all, and that's okay. I wish I understood more about. I wish I understood more about the European football, but I've just always avoided learning too much about it because I don't need yet another sport to follow. I spend enough time following the ones that I do, which is really just kind of football, mainly college and professional American football, and keep a little eye on the NBA, but usually don't bother to check in until it's getting pretty close to the playoffs. So, baseball, there's just too many damn games. I can't do it. I know it's the game that I should, that it's cooler to like baseball than any of the other three, but because of the history and the supposed subtleties of the game. But anyway, enough about sports. I will be watching the game. I'm curious to see whether always curious to see the halftime show and the fellow who calls himself The Weeknd, who I've only had brief exposure to, but he seems like he's creating pleasant, popular music. Anyway, what am I doing here? Well, another in my series of explorations of the history of country music, and we're still in the way back time period of the mid-20s, and this is I'm going to do some songs by Gid Tanner and his Skillet Lickers today, and they were among the first recorded music stars of what later became known as country music, and people now refer to this as traditional or old time or mountain music, but it has a lot of different influences. But anyway, I'm going to start off with one called Georgia Railroad. And pretty straightforward thing here that has a lot of fiddle breaks in the original, which obviously are not going to happen here. But talks about fish. It talks about drinking. You know, it talks about railroads. I mean, I think we're establishing a country music template here. And again, these songs came, were recorded in 26, and so they're earlier than what's considered the Big Bang of country music, the session that, where the Carter family and Jimmy Rogers both recorded in Bristol, Tennessee in 27. So, all right, Georgia Railroad. Peter and I, we went fishing, Georgia Railroad, I am bound. Catch big mudcat, put him in the kitchen, Georgia Railroad, I am bound. Walk down the road till it got right muddy, Georgia Railroad, I am bound. But I'm so drunk I can't stand steady, Georgia Railroad, Georgia gal. I got drunk and fell in a gully, Georgia Railroad, I am bound. I got drunk but I never got muddy, Georgia Railroad, Georgia gal. Walked down the road till it got right muddy, Georgia Railroad, I am bound. But I'm so drunk I can't stand steady, Georgia Railroad, Georgia gal. Caught a big mud cat. It's always fun to find these little bits of these little terms and phrases in these old songs that, mud cat, I'm sure we're talking about a catfish there, being a bottom feeder and whatnot. So as I've experienced over and over again, as I've been exploring this old-time music, it's really hard to avoid songs that contain the N-word. So as I'm picking out which songs I'm going to do, there's always a few times when I'm listening through a bunch of different material and it's just like, oh, again, with the N-word, guys, you know what? But it's just a part of our musical history that we certainly don't want to ignore just because there were racists involved. So this is a gospel number that the Skillet Lickers were the first band to record, as far as I know, and pretty famous gospel number, actually written by an African American. So, it's the interesting, contrasts of all of this, complexities of it, in that, white guys who had no problem using the N-word would still record music written by black men or women, and certainly musically were influenced by African Americans. I mean, hell, the banjo is an African instrument. And conversely, the minstrel shows that had all of these horrible racist characterizations of blackface characters, a lot of those songs ended up being recorded by African Americans after that fact. The songs that were originally written to mock them and belittle them, the lyrics got changed up a bit, and you'll find countless recordings of African American artists recording songs that were originally sort of racist comedy. So anyway, this is not racist comedy, but it is interesting to me. Lyrically, it's interesting to me. There are a gazillion different versions of this song, as with a lot of these that I play with as old-timey music. It's called Hand Me Down My Walking Cane, and it's a gospel song, but it doesn't seem to be, it doesn't seem to be saying much about finding a good path, other than here are the things that were sort of sinful but all my sins will be taken away with my walking cane for whatever reason. But all right. Hand me down my walking cane. Hand me down my walking cane. Hand me down my walking cane. I'm going away on the morning train. All my sins been taken away, taken away. Hand me down a quart of corn. Hand me down a quart of corn. Corn, I'll get drunk, sure as you were born. All my sins been taken away, taken away. Mom, she wept and Susie moaned. Mom, she wept and Susie moaned. Mom, she wept and Susie moaned, just about choked on a chicken bone. All my sins been taken away, taken away. Yonder come a man across the field. Yonder come a man across the field. Yonder come a man across the field, kicking up dust like an automobile. All my sins been taken away, taken away. I got a fire alarm going off here, I think. That adds to the effect, I think. Come on now. Mother wore 3 links of chain. Mother wore 3 links of chain. Mother wore 3 links of chain. Each link had Jesus' name. All my sins been taken away, taken away. All my sins been taken away, taken away. It's nice that it ended at the end of the song. Must be Joe's cooking bacon up in there, so our smoke alarm went off. That's the electronica version of walking cane. All right. So yeah, hand me down a quart of corn. Google. I'll get drunk, sure as you were born. All my sins been taken away, taken away. Okay, sure. That's the thing I like about a lot of religion is I guess you get to pretty much be a sinful person, and all you got to do is accept Jesus into your heart, you know, and it's all good. Okay, I'm going to use a capo on this, if I can find what the heck I did with my capo. So this is a, just kind of, this is a pretty, well-covered folk tune. This is, high up there in the popularity range of the classic American folk tunes, and it's called Casey Jones. This version that Gid Tanner did is a lot different than most that you will hear. And so Casey Jones is about a real train engineer who was regarded as one of the most skillful and speedy train engineers that ended up dying, and if you believe the legend, there was a passenger train. He was headed towards a passenger train and deliberately kind of ditched his locomotive to save the people that he would have hit. And there is news reporting of it from the day. He's a real character. It's not just a completely invented thing. Interesting thing, as I was researching this, and a lot of these songs, because it's so hard to make out the lyrics on these old 78s, that I combine various lyrics that I've culled from a bunch of different versions. But it seems like prior to automobiles, dudes must have been into fetishizing the specific mechanical attributes of locomotives, much like they started doing with cars later on, because he's talking about a 6/8 wheel ride, which is a real specific type of locomotive that you would have to be really into learning about trains to to know what that means. And then, for some reason, the song goes into, in almost all the versions, goes into at least one verse or two about how Casey's widow, had another man lined up, which apparently, she was interviewed numerous times after these songs, these songs about Casey became popular, and just insisted that she was never had another man lined up, and remained single, and was very offended that these verses were added to to the legend, besmirching her. All right. Anyway, Casey Jones. I'll stop talking about it and sing it. All right. Come on, all you rounders, if you want to hear the story told about a brave engineer. Casey was the rounder's name, on a 6/8 wheel ride where he won his fame. He walked in the shed at just 4 o'clock, told his fireman, get the boilers hot. Fireman said, yes, sir, 'cause we ought to been gone, and I feel like riding if it's all night long. Casey Jones, Casey Jones, Casey Jones, feel like riding if it's all night long. Up in the morning, well, it looked like rain. Around the curve swung a passenger train. Up on the bumper lay Casey Jones. He's a good old rounder, but he's dead and gone. It was after the 4-mile curve, Johnny the fireman, where he lost his nerve. Casey didn't weaken a bit. He had his hands on the throttle when his engine hit. Casey Jones, Casey Jones, Casey Jones, Casey was planting when it's all night long. He had his hands on the throttle when the engine hit. On that train sat Miss Alice Fry, said, I'm gonna ride with Mr. Casey or die. I'm not good looking, but I take my mind. I'm just a rambling mama with a rambling mind. See, now what that verse has to do with anything, I really have no idea. Casey Jones, Casey Jones, Casey Jones, feel like riding all night long. You ought to have been there and seen the sight. People screaming both black and white. I was there, was a natural fact. I saw 2 coaches that had left the track. Mama, mama, well, I can't see. My papa got killed on the Santa Fe. Told the children, before you cry yourself hoarse, I got you another daddy on the police force. Casey Jones, Casey And Neil says, that took a turn at the end. It's like, stop your crying, kid. I got another daddy all lined up for you. So, yeah, the legend of Casey Jones. It's complicated. Let's see here. Moving on. So, most of this earliest country music, or what would later become known as country music, comes from a plateau area that stretches on the eastern side of the Appalachians, called that's referred to as the Piedmont, and so it's kind of an area. The Piedmont is Italian. It literally means foothills, and so it's the area between the East Coast and where the Appalachians get a little higher. And I was reading about Piedmont blues, which is a subgenre of country blues, the earliest acoustic blues, and they commented on the fact that unlike blues from more isolated areas like the Mississippi Delta, the proximity to the East Coast meant that Piedmont blues players were influenced by a wider variety of other musics, Tin Pan Alley stuff and ragtime and whatnot. And I think that this next song I'm going to play by Gid Tanner probably illustrates that the country music or old-time music of that area was true too, because this has a structure that you could almost... the chord structure and the little minor key break that happens in it, you could almost imagine like a hot jazz group of the same era, using this pattern. I mean, it doesn't sound like a jazz song by any means, but it certainly is not. Most of what I've played so far have been two chord songs. It's certainly not one of those, and it's called "I Don't Love Nobody." I don't love nobody, nobody loves me. You're after my money, don't care for me. I want to be happy, I wish to be free. I don't love nobody, nobody loves me. Born in Kentucky, lived there all my life. I've been very lucky, never had a wife. Mighty near it Sunday, I asked the girl to wed. Met the lady Monday, and this is what she said. I don't love nobody, nobody loves me. You're after my money, don't care for me. I wanna be happy, I wish to be free. I don't love nobody, nobody loves me. Went out Thursday evening along with Carter Bryce. Broke that Kansas gambler shooting poker and dice. Made love to this lady, I kissed her right away. She pulled a razor on me and then I heard her say, I don't love nobody, nobody loves me. You're after my money, don't care for me. I wanna be happy, I wish to be free. I don't love nobody, nobody loves me. When I promenading down on Thompson Street, met a high-toned lady, smiled on her so sweet, Said, "Ah, there, my honey, I thought I had her dead." But when I tried to kiss her, this is what she said. "I don't love nobody, nobody loves me. You're after my money, don't care for me. I wanna be happy, I wish to be free. I don't love nobody, nobody loves me." Said, "I don't love nobody, nobody loves me." I don't love nobody, nobody. Yeah. So, yeah, I don't know if you get the vibe of what I'm talking about here with that song like that. You feel like you could hear jazz artists doing it. You feel like you could hear sort of pop artists doing it. It doesn't sound like purely hill music like some of the other stuff that I've been playing. All right, one more from Gid Tanner, and then I'll get back to my George Jones chronology of singles here. This is another gospel number, but like a lot of the gospel numbers you discover in this, it doesn't really seem to be a whole lot about worshiping the Lord. And in fact, this one seems to be just a list of the different denominations of preachers and what their flaws might be. It's called "Don't You Hear Jerusalem Moan," and most of these denominations I was somewhat familiar with, but I did have to look up Campbellites, and it was a week ago that I did that, so I've already forgotten the distinction between the Campbellite preachers and some of the others here, like the Holy Rollers and Hard Shell preachers, but it seems to me that the message that's being portrayed here is that preachers like to drink and that they like chicken. I guess I missed my calling because I like both of those things. Don't you hear Jerusalem moan? Now the Methodist preacher, you can tell where he goes. Don't you hear Jerusalem moan? Don't never let a chicken get old enough to crow. Don't you hear Jerusalem moan? Don't you hear Jerusalem moan? Don't you hear Jerusalem moan? Thank God that the heavens are ringing in my soul and my soul set free. Don't you hear Jerusalem moan? Now the hard shell preacher, you can tell him by his shoes. Don't you hear Jerusalem moan? Chews his own tobacco and he drinks his own booze. Don't you hear Jerusalem moan? Now the Baptist preacher, you can tell him by his coat. Don't you hear Jerusalem moan? Has a bottle in his pocket that he can't hardly tote. Don't you hear Jerusalem moan? Don't you hear Jerusalem moan? Don't you hear Jerusalem moan? Thank God that the heavens are ringing in my soul and my soul set free. Don't you hear Jerusalem moan? Now the Campbellite preacher, his soul is saved. Don't you hear Jerusalem moan? Well, he got to be baptized every other day. Don't you hear Jerusalem moan? Now the holy roly preacher, sure am a sight. Don't you hear Jerusalem moan? When he gets them all a-rolling and he kicks out the lights. Don't you hear Jerusalem moan? Don't you hear Jerusalem moan? Don't you hear Jerusalem moan? Thank God in the heavens and ringing in my soul and my soul set free. Don't you hear Jerusalem moan? Presbyterian preacher, he lives in town. Don't you hear Jerusalem moan? His neck's so stiff he can hardly look around. Don't you hear Jerusalem moan? Oh, the Methodist preacher, you can tell him by his bow. Don't you hear Jerusalem moan? Never grumbles at a chicken, just picking out the core. Don't you hear Jerusalem moan? Don't you hear Jerusalem moan? Don't you hear Jerusalem moan? Thank God that the heavens and the ringing in my soul, and my soul set free. Don't you hear Jerusalem moan? More fun with language here. I had to look up the word grubbles. Methodist preacher, you can tell him by his bow. Never grubbles at a chicken, just picking out the core. Grubbles would be just sort of like picking at the scraps, you know. But the Methodist preacher, he only wants the big meaty good parts of the chicken. He's not even going to bother to grubble at the little bits that are left. Apparently, you know, growing up in a heathen household, all this religious stuff is pretty fascinating to me. How y'all figure out all this stuff, all the blood of the lamb and all that jazz, I don't know. But it makes for some interesting music and some interesting wordplay. All right, that's it for Gid Tanner. I'll give you next week. I'm going to do J.E. Maynor and his Mountaineers, who came a little bit later, but were extremely popular and recorded hundreds of 78s. Released hundreds of 78s, so that'll be fun. And there's because we get up into the 30s, there's a little bit more variety of songwriting style to choose from. So looking forward to researching that, and hopefully not boring you with all the details I've learned. Trust me, I'm not trying to present myself as any sort of authority on this. Far from it. I'm just you're just kind of watching me take a class. So George Jones, goddamn George Jones, you wrote some great songs, and it occurred to me as I'm chronologically going through George Jones's catalog that it's like, man, it's hard to record and release covers because you have to pay the proper publishing on them, which sometimes gets complicated to sort out. So as a artist that's a DIY guy like myself, I did it with the single that I recorded for that Dollar Store recorded that I released with Joe singing "Shoot Shoot." And, it cost me about, I don't know, I guess about $90 to purchase a license that would allow me to sell 1,000 downloads of that song. But I never got it totally sorted out because I could only find the publishing ownership of 75% of the song, and I could never figure out where the other 25% was. And I just figured, like, if they want to come after me for this, charity thing, let them try and squeeze some money out of me. It's probably all of $30 that I would owe them if I found the ownership of the other 25% of the publishing. But all this to say that I would love to do an album that is all about the songwriting of George Jones, because he wrote so many songs, and I think all of us only, I say this over and over on my show, but all of us, I think, only think of him as the greatest country singer who's ever lived. He also wrote some great tunes. He's certainly not in the league songwriting wise of someone like Merle or even Loretta probably. But there's a lot of great material there, and it would be really cool to do a themed album where it was just songs that he had solely written. And this is a good one. Very simple. His songs were very straightforward in terms of their structure, but some really fun wordplay in this one. Again, we're in the kind of mid 50s here. This was released on Star Day Records out of Houston, Texas, and it's called Hold Everything. Hold everything till I come home, no matter how long I'm gone. Don't be tempted by their money or booze, nobody's gonna fill my shoes. When I get back, I won't even knock, 'cause the same old key fits the same old lock. Hold everything till I come home, no matter how long I'm gone. Hold everything till I come home, no matter how long I'm gone. Don't try to sell our little shack, just keep it till I get back. Just keep everything in apple shape. If you feel queasy, just put on the brake. Hold everything till I come home, no matter how long I'm gone. Hold everything till I come home, no matter how long I'm gone. Meet 'em at the door with a 44 and tell 'em I'm right next door. If they ask you for a date, just show 'em the gate. If they don't like it, tell 'em you're too late. Hold everything till I come home, no matter how long I'm gone. Hold everything, I'm a-coming home, no matter how far I roam. When I return, we're gonna be alone. You'll forget I've ever been gone. When I get back, you won't sleep and you won't have much time to eat. Hold everything till I come home, no matter how long I'm gone. Hold everything till I come home, no matter how long I'm gone. Hold everything. George Jones from, I don't know, 56, 57, sometime in there. Hey, thank you all for joining me today. That's about it for today. I got to get out there and eat some breakfast tacos that Joe's been making up for us. And, run my little errand. My one little errand to run in the cold is I got to walk half a block to get myself a bottle of whiskey, replenish my whiskey supply here, because that feels like what I need to drink while this game is going on. Anyway, hope you're all safe and sound and happy as can be, and stay that way. And I'll be back here next week doing the songs of J.E. Manier and his brother Wade Manier, and the other members of the Mountaineers. So yeah, stay safe, stay home if you can, stay sane, and I love y'all, and I'll be right back here next week, and thanks a lot. Bye-bye.